Δεν βλέπω. Από εκεί. Παρακαλώ. Sorry κύριε. Ευχαριστώ κύριε Πρόεδρε. In this special event where so many representatives of the highest authorities of the Hellenic Republic, the representative of His Beatitude, the Archbishop of Athens of the whole Greece, and all of us, members of the European Group of Public Law, we have gathered around you to remember the 30 years of the European Group of Public Law, the hardcore of the European Public Law Organization. 30 years ago, in the early days of the month of September 1989, the birth of the European Group of Public Law took place in the sacred city of Athens. The event passed unnoticed to the many, but the European Group of Public Law was not meant to appeal to the many. It was conceived to gather in the ranks of a group of initiative only the excellent. In those days, we were just a few of us, but we were determined to invite everyone who would accept to engage in a group based on the ideas of equality of national sciences and equality of scholars, respect of each other, openness to a dialogue of civilizations, friendships among its members. That September, the first issue of the European Review of Public Law was published, the first ever legal periodical which was designed to be multilingual and multicultural. The review was prefaced with the following words, I quote, "Living in this century, we have the privilege of seeing Europe develop before our eyes. Perhaps by increasing understanding in our field, we can participate more actively in its formation in a way that goes to the heart of our institutions and the relations between state and society. It seems to us today that we can furthermore enhance our efforts in order to give body to the dialogue of cultures and thus give Europe the place that it deserves in all dimensions of its public law and in all great languages that have formed its legal civilization, within and even outside the European Union, from the Atlantic to the Urals and to the Caucasus. Though European, this review we were writing will not be oriented solely towards European law. Created by the initiative of European jurists, the review will be open not only to Europe, but to discussion of law of other continents as well. The aim is to put onto a scientific basis this most developed comparative legal knowledge and of quotation. This evening, at the foot of the eternal symbol of universal civilization, the Acropolis of Athens, on the soil of the Roman Agorá of ancient Athens, we are celebrating 30 years of development, achievement, public service, education, research, creation of institutions in the European Union, in Europe, worldwide. With the deepest gratitude to the founders, the members and the supporters of this unique ITER, I would like to thank, on behalf of all of us, His Excellency, the President of the Hellenic Republic and Professor Prokopios Pavlopoulos, for everything that he has been doing all those years to support and promote this unprecedented project, and ask Professor Sabino Cassese, President of the European Scientific Council of the European Public Law Organization, to take the floor.
Mr. President, I'm very grateful to you for your participation to this celebration. And I'm very grateful also on behalf of all the members of this group, a group that you know very well because you were among the founders of this group and you are an honorary member now of this group. The group was founded when scientific societies were mostly national. For example, the German Vereinigung der Deutschen Staatsrechtslehre, which was founded almost a century ago in 1922. The only truly international learned society was founded in 1924 and was the International Academy of Comparative Law, which was founded in 1924. And 6 years later was established the International Institute of Administrative Sciences, but this institute was not a scientific society because the members were the member states and because there were national sections which were governed by national governments. Only quite recently, some scientific societies were established on a bilateral basis, and I'm a good testimony for this because I was among the co-founders of the Spanish-Italian Learned Society some 50 years ago and some 40 years ago of the equivalent Learned Society among the German and the Italian. And only in the last 10 years, truly international and multinational learned societies were established. Among them, ICON-S, which unites public law scholars and practitioners from all over the world. So my conclusion on this point is very simple, is that the European Group of Public Law is among the world champions, I would say, as one of the first multinational, multicultural, and multilingual associations of scholars, judges, practitioners in the field of public law. I want now to address another point, try to explain why these multinational learned societies are so important. There are, in my opinion, 2 reasons. The first one is quite simple. They are important as multinational learned societies because more and more supranational and multinational organizations have been established, and therefore there is a need of the field of scholarship to study those new institutions. You may say that yes, there are universities for this purpose, but universities have a very strange history, because universities were established in medieval times as international institutions. Bologna, Paris, they were not national institutions at that time. But then, in the 18th and 19th centuries, the universities became nationalized, became national institutions. And becoming national institutions, especially after the very important role played by Wilhelm von Humboldt, they were oriented towards studying national institutions. So in a way, those institutions, the universities, were national institutions with, so to say, a nationalistic approach. So the first reason why we need multinational learned societies where scholars, judges, practitioners meet to discuss problems which are common to their own experience. But there is a second and more complex reason. And the reason is that there is a growing need to compare national legal orders, but without being prisoners of a nationalistic mentality. By that, I want to mean that we cannot think that comparison presupposes diversity. On the contrary, many countries have in common many institutions. Think, to take only 3 examples, to the French Conseil d'État, or to the Swedish Ombudsman, or to the principle of proportionality, which was born in Germany and then was spread all over the world in many countries and in many states. Today we have been discussing one concept which has been also introduced in the Treaty on the European Union, which is the concept of constitutional traditions which are common to the member states. What does it mean? It does mean that even in the treaty, first in the jurisprudence of the European Court of Justice, and then in the treaty, it has been established that there are some principles, some traditions which are common and are recognized as common, and being common, they are a source of law, which is a very new concept by which you have a kind of law which is produced bottom up and then goes top down from the European Union, becoming a principle to regulate fundamental rights. This does not mean that diversity has been replaced by uniformity, because common principles and institutions interact with different social, political, cultural environments, and this makes them different. Now, even a cursory examination of the topics that have been discussed in the 30 reunions during the last 30 years in the European Group of Public Law makes clear that the 255 members of this group have taken seriously the task and have produced an important amount of research useful to the development of public law in the world. I cannot finish without mentioning that our colleague and friend Spyros Flogaitis has been the driving force behind this group. Without him, this group would not be here. And I also don't want to finish without mentioning the great masters who have been members of this group. Just to mention a few of them: Rivero, Giannini, Wade, Brabant, Williams, Levy, Garcia Denterria. Thanks again, Mr. President, for your presence in this occasion, and long life to the European Group of Public Law.